My name is Browne and I'm the Senior Producer for Audience Development within the V&A Academy. Today I'm here to talk to you about four of my favourite objects that are a part of two trails, Africans in Europe and Britain in the Caribbean, that we produce with the African Heritage Guides. Standing next to the bust of a youth, aka the bust of a black youth. You can see from his features he has a strong character, and it is not a caricature. This has been made with a real model, a real live person. It's a fantastic rendition of a black man, and if I was 300 years old, this is the type of man I would be dating. What can I say about this fine figure of a man? He's wearing an Ottoman-styled shirt made from marble. The buttons are made from glass. Notice he hasn't got a collar. So that actually says to me that he is a working man. He is an employed man. During the 1700s, there were many Africans living in Italy, many of whom were gondoliers in Venice. We have placed this object next to a set of gondolier irons because we believe that this was his trade. These are a pair of dessert baskets in the figures of America and Africa. These would hold sweetmeats on middle-class dining tables in the mid-1700s. These objects were made at the height of the transatlantic slave trade, particularly where Europeans required sugar to sweeten their tea because they didn't like the taste of tea from China. Earlier we saw a realistic depiction of the bust of a black youth made in the early 1700s. These sweetmeat bowls, however, were made in 1765, but they look much more caricatural. That might have something to do with the fact that they were mass-produced for the dining table, but I actually think it had something to do with the growth of the transatlantic slave trade, where the figure of the African became much more grotesque. This is a skirt suit made by Nat Gaines for Beryl Gilroy for her trip from Guyana to the UK in the early 50s as part of the Windrush period. If you look at the colour of this very strong colour, this is the kind of colour you would not see or expect to see in the UK at that time. So it was making a statement. Women in the Caribbean at that time had their clothes made by dressmakers. However, Beryl wanted to make a bit of a statement coming to the UK. So she had a tailor, Nat Gaines, make this suit for her. Tailors made clothes for men. As you can see in the shoulders, they're very padded, very full, almost like a power suit of its time. If you look closer, you will see that this suit is quite well worn. I think Beryl wore this suit on many occasions when she applied for jobs in the UK that she never ever got. However, eventually, Beryl did get work editing. She did pick up on her career, and eventually she became one of London's first black head teachers in the 1960s. Now we're at Francis Williams, aka the Jamaican scholar, or the scholar of Jamaica. This was painted in about 1745, and it depicts Francis in his room, showing all of his finery. The uncomfortable truth about Francis is that he made his money on the back of enslaved Africans in Jamaica because his parents owned plantations. So he lived as an Englishman in Europe because he got to travel the world. He learned Latin, he studied at Cambridge. He was truly a scholar. As you can see, Francis has a depiction of the Caribbean in the background. He has his books because he's a scholar, Latin, went to Cambridge. He traveled the world. He was an astronomer. And if you notice, he's got quite a large head, small feet, and small hands. I think that's a bit of a giveaway I think that actually means that he was quite intellectual, but he did not work on a plantation. So he didn't toil with his feet or his hands. As you can see, his feet straddle the black and the white tile. It's because he lived in two worlds. It's kind of like a parallel universe. He lived as an Englishman in England, but also tried to gain political status in Jamaica. However, the plantocracy in the colonies wouldn't allow that. No Africans enslaved, not even a black man with fine tastes and intellect could ever have that kind of status. Unfortunately, I feel that Francis lived a life of despair, unable to please the plantocracy or enslaved Africans in the Caribbean at that time, but also thinking about the fact that his life was better in England, even if he wanted to live in the Caribbean, which was technically his home. Thank you for joining me today as I shared with you some of my favourite objects in the V&A. You too may want to download Africans in Europe or Britain and the Caribbean Trails and come to the museum and view those objects yourself.